evening, I'm PPO Forbes and this is your Armed Forces Week Forces Update. Soldiers from the 2nd Battalion, the Royal Regiment of Scotland, are in Cumbria, continuing their preparations for the upcoming tour in Afghanistan. At Warkop, 2 Scots have been practising their section defence drills ahead of their deployment in Operation Toril later this year. The Fusiliers will be part of the NATO effort, helping to provide security against insurgents around the capital Kabul and developing the skills of Afghan forces. They take over from their sister battalion 4 Scots in October. It may sound like science fiction, but it's not. A new regiment was stood up last week at Blandford in Dorset. The 13th Signal Regiment is a military cyber unit to protect forces in the modern era. This is a step change in the modernisation of the UK Armed Forces for Information Warfare, Defence Secretary Ben Wallace said. He also stated, cyber attacks are every bit as deadly as those faced on the physical battlefield, so we must prepare ourselves to defend from all those who could do us harm. 13th Signal Regiment is a vital addition to that defence. Although the regiment will formally come under Army Command, it will work with the Royal Navy and Royal Air Force to secure communications networks on the battlefield overseas and at home. On the 15th of June, Typhoons from RAF Coningsby met up with 2 US Air Force B-52 bombers off the north of Scotland as they arrived from their base in the US to conduct a long-range strategic training mission in the annual NATO Bulltops exercise. The following day, the Typhoons from RAF Lossiemouth deployed in Lithuania switched from Bulltops exercise to intercept 3 Russian Sukhoi fighter jets. Then again on the 18th of June, another Typhoon was scrambled to deter and intercept a Russian intelligence gathering aircraft over the Baltic Sea. Wing Commander Stewie Gwinnett, the 135th Expeditionary Air Wing Commander that is carrying out the NATO air policing mission, said, "This week's missions have been highlighted the flexibility of the NATO Baltic Air Policing Mission. Whether it's working with US Bomber Task Force or reacting to live Baltic airport airspace incursions, we are ready to react. This is a testament to the flexibility, training and professionalism of the deployed RAF personnel here in Lithuania and our ability to work with our NATO partners." Also at Bulltops, frigate HMS Kent and minehunter HMS Ramsay were flying the flag for the Royal Navy. Crews of both ships say the 2-week workout proved to be a supreme test. Lieutenant Commander Joe Roberts, Ramsay's commanding officer, said, "Bulltops has offered mine countermeasures training on an impressive scale and has allowed Ramsay to develop our operational capability as well as our own understanding of how we can support and protect collective UK and NATO interests." 3 RAF Puma helicopters deployed to Kinloss Barracks to support the Scottish Ambulance Service in the coronavirus fight headed back to their Oxfordshire base nearly 3 months after being stood up in support of the COVID activity in Scotland. The aircraft and crews from RAF Benson had responded to an urgent request in March from the Scottish Ambulance Service to provide it with an interim ability to move infectious patients by air. This is especially vital to remote Highland and Island communities during the COVID crisis. While in Scotland, however, the RAF air crews have taken advantage of the sunny Scottish weather, the mountains and the wilderness terrains to train for their future operational deployment to Afghanistan. And on to the Royal Marines, this time from 47 Commando Raiding Group, who have been testing themselves on the fast boat exercises with HMS Medway in the Caribbean. These raiding specialists bring a distinct advantage to the Royal Navy Task Group in the Caribbean on their main missions in counter-drugs trafficking and disaster relief operations. These hardy trained coxswains are trained in operating their boats in the most extreme of conditions and having just completed months of training in the icy fjords of Norway and also in the extreme desert heat in Oman. Having pushed themselves and their kit to the extremes, they are now working closely as part of a potent Royal Navy task group, including Medway, Argus, in the Merlin helicopters and the 3 Commando Brigades crisis response troop. HMS Queen Elizabeth has completed her Carrier Sea training, an intensive 6-week testing of the entire ship's company. RO8 is now in the next stage of her strike group programme. Exercise Crimson Ocean is held in UK waters and the Eastern Atlantic and will be operationally focused exercise. UK-owned F-35s will continue to develop their carrier aviation and warfare skills and build on initial work done during 2019. Elsewhere in the fleet, HMS Montrose and others protected 164 ships, accounting for 10 million tonnes worth of UK shipping in the Gulf. HMS Forth was the first Batch 2 offshore patrol vessel to deploy to the Falklands, and the Royal Navy announced that River-class Batch 2 offshore patrol vessel HMS Tamar has been commissioned on June the 4th on the River Tamar.
An iconic moment, the raising of the White Ensign on HMS Tamar. And where better to do it than on the River Tamar.
So it's an incredibly proud day for us on board HMS Tamar. The ceremony that we've just completed marks the acceptance of HMS Tamar into the fleet. She's achieved her initial operating capability, having generated incredibly quickly, and is now ready to commence training for the next stage of her life, which is deployed overseas on deployed operations.
HMS Tamar is the Royal Navy's newest vessel and its greenest. With its ensign raised, its engines and seaboats named, HMS Tamar will now start to get ready for its first deployment later this year.
And finally, HMS Queen Elizabeth had a surprise visitor when a lost racing pigeon made itself at home in the carrier's hangar. The bird was discovered by sailors stowing the F-35 Lightning jets after a busy day of training with 617 Squadron, the Dam Busters. Air Engineering Technician Alexander Thomason said to us, "I was just putting the lashings on the jet when I looked up and saw this pigeon nesting behind the hangar gantry. It appeared pretty pleased to be there, if I'm honest. We've named her Polly. Polly's in good hands. The ship will be taking good care of her until they return home to Portsmouth at the end of June." That's the end of the news. Thank you and take care. Good night.